to look at the other side of a lot of these stories and how William and Catherine are sort of trying to evolve the monarchy in their vision. And when you're speaking to people very, very close to them, you get a sense of the sort of fractiousness.
Queen Elizabeth rarely trusted outsiders, which is why Russell Meyer's latest revelation has stunned royal watchers everywhere. Reports claim the Queen privately summoned Catherine before the wedding and delivered a warning so personal that it may have changed the monarchy's future forever. Some believe the meeting proved the Queen already saw Catherine as the family's safest future, while others think it exposed fears hidden behind palace smiles. But what was said during that secret conversation, and why does it matter today? So what do you think? Was Catherine truly prepared for the crisis? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more royal stories. Buckingham Palace doors closed quietly. December 2010 should have been a straightforward celebration for Catherine Middleton. The engagement to Prince William had already triggered the full force of royal planning inside Buckingham Palace. Guest lists were being reviewed, security teams were coordinating movements, designers were preparing for global attention, and palace officials were carefully shaping every public detail surrounding the wedding that would soon dominate headlines around the world. Yet behind the polished image of royal excitement, another moment was quietly unfolding far from public view. According to reporting later highlighted by Russell Myers, Queen Elizabeth II made an unexpected request during those tense weeks before the ceremony. She wanted to see Catherine alone. There would be no press photographers waiting outside, no senior royals sitting nearby, and no Prince William acting as support between them. The meeting was arranged privately inside Buckingham Palace, creating immediate curiosity about why the monarch had insisted on such an unusually personal conversation. For Catherine, the invitation reportedly carried enormous pressure. She had spent years around William and had met the Queen before, but always within controlled family settings, where conversation moved carefully around protocol and tradition. This time felt completely different. She was preparing to sit across from one of the most disciplined and emotionally guarded figures in modern history, without anyone else in the room. Reports suggested she became visibly nervous before arriving, checking her appearance repeatedly and quietly worrying about whether she would say the wrong thing once the conversation began. That anxiety made sense because Queen Elizabeth was not known for arranging deeply personal meetings. Throughout her reign, she maintained a deliberate emotional distance even with people she trusted. Former aides often described her approach as careful and controlled, designed to protect both herself and the institution she represented. Public warmth existed, but private openness was rare. That is exactly why this particular meeting attracted so much attention once details slowly emerged years later. What made the situation even more intriguing was the timing. The monarchy was entering a new generation, and Catherine was about to become part of one of the most scrutinized families on Earth. Every gesture carried meaning inside palace walls, especially from the Queen herself. Some observers later questioned whether this meeting was truly about wedding preparation at all. Others suspected the Queen had already begun privately assessing Catherine's future importance long before the public fully understood the role she would eventually hold inside the monarchy. Russell Myers framed the encounter as something far more significant than a routine royal discussion. The secrecy surrounding it only deepened speculation. No official statement ever explained exactly why the Queen wanted Catherine alone that afternoon. Yet the existence of the meeting suggested something unmistakable. Behind the formal ceremonies and carefully managed headlines, a private relationship was beginning to form, one that may have shaped the future direction of the royal family in ways almost nobody recognized at the time. And that conversation soon raised larger questions across Britain's monarchy. Inside that private room, what was really said between the Queen and Catherine? Why was the future Queen summoned alone, away from William and the press? More importantly, what was revealed in those unseen minutes that changed everything that followed the wedding plans forever after? Queen's warning changed. Catherine forever. When Catherine Middleton entered Buckingham Palace for her private meeting with Queen Elizabeth II, she reportedly expected a careful conversation about royal customs, wedding schedules, and public appearances. The monarchy was already preparing for one of the biggest ceremonies in modern British history, and Catherine understood that every detail surrounding her marriage to Prince William would be examined around the world. Yet according to accounts later discussed by Russell Myers, the discussion quickly moved away from formalities and into something far more personal and unsettling. The Queen did not reportedly spend the meeting reviewing ceremonial duties or correcting protocol. Instead, she began speaking about marriage itself, particularly the reality of living beside strong-willed royal men whose personalities could sometimes dominate every room they entered. One remark stood out more than anything else. She warned Catherine about dealing with headstrong husbands, a phrase that immediately shifted the atmosphere inside the room. It was not the kind of language people expected from a monarch famous for emotional restraint and carefully measured words. For Catherine, the moment may have felt unexpectedly intimate. Queen Elizabeth was no longer speaking as sovereign alone. She was speaking as a wife who had spent decades beside Prince Philip, a man widely known for his blunt opinions, direct manner, and refusal to soften his views for anyone, including senior palace officials. The Queen reportedly admitted that patience inside royal marriage was not weakness, but survival. That distinction carried enormous weight coming from someone who had preserved both her marriage and the monarchy through political crises, scandals, and relentless public scrutiny. What made the conversation especially striking was how unusual such honesty appeared to be. Throughout her reign, Queen Elizabeth carefully protected her private emotions from public view. Even trusted advisors rarely described her as openly vulnerable. Yet in this meeting with Catherine, she reportedly offered personal reflections drawn from experience rather than official guidance taken from palace tradition. Russell Myers suggested the exchange sounded less like a briefing and more like a warning delivered quietly before Catherine stepped permanently into royal life. Some royal observers later questioned whether the Queen already sensed how difficult the future could become for the younger generation of royals. At the time, the wedding represented glamour, stability, and continuity for the monarchy. Public excitement surrounded William and Catherine everywhere they appeared. But behind palace walls, the Queen may have understood pressures invisible to outsiders, pressures capable of damaging relationships, public trust, and even the institution itself. Catherine reportedly left the meeting relieved rather than intimidated, suggesting the Queen's words carried reassurance alongside caution. Still, the deeper meaning of that private discussion continued to raise questions years later. If the Queen truly chose to prepare Catherine emotionally instead of ceremonially, then the conversation may have revealed something important about how she viewed Catherine's future role inside the monarchy long before the rest of the world fully recognized it. And quietly, the palace meeting began feeling less personal and strategic. Why would the Queen speak so openly about marriage behind palace walls? And what truth about royal husbands was she truly trying to warn Catherine about? Did Catherine fully understand the weight of those words, or was something even darker being revealed beneath protocol? Stay glued. Quiet trust inside palace walls. By the time details of Queen Elizabeth II's private conversations with Catherine Middleton began surfacing through Russell Myers' reporting, royal observers were already asking the same uneasy question. Why had the Queen treated Catherine differently from almost everyone else entering the royal family? Inside palace circles, the monarch had long been known for discipline, emotional caution, and a careful separation between personal feeling and royal duty. Even family members often described her as reserved. That distance was not considered cruelty, it was survival, developed over decades spent protecting both herself and the institution she represented from scandal, emotion, and instability. That reputation made her growing connection with Catherine far more significant than it first appeared. According to Myers, The private meeting before the wedding was not an isolated gesture. It became part of an ongoing relationship that slowly developed behind closed palace doors, away from cameras and public attention. The Queen reportedly continued inviting Catherine for conversations long after the engagement period, offering guidance about royal life, public pressure, and the responsibilities attached to becoming the future Princess of Wales. The pattern suggested something deeper than ordinary family support. What stood out most was how uncommon this level of access appeared to be. New figures entering the monarchy were usually expected to learn through observation, protocol, and experience, rather than emotional mentorship. Yet Catherine seemed to receive something more personal. The Queen reportedly showed genuine interest in her character, temperament, and ability to remain calm under pressure. Myers suggested that trust had formed years before the royal wedding itself, long before Catherine officially became part of the family. Some royal commentators later argued that the Queen recognized qualities in Catherine that aligned closely with her own approach to monarchy. Catherine rarely spoke publicly about private frustrations, avoided open conflict, and maintained a controlled public image even during periods of intense media intrusion. To some observers, those traits may have signaled reliability inside an institution where public stability mattered more than personal expression. Others believed the Queen admired Catherine's patience during her long relationship with Prince William, especially while facing constant scrutiny from tabloids questioning whether marriage would ever happen. Still, comparisons quietly emerged between Catherine and other women who later entered royal life under different circumstances. The contrast fueled speculation about why the Queen appeared unusually invested in Catherine's success. No official statement ever described Catherine as the monarch's chosen successor figure, but the pattern of private meetings, symbolic gestures, and personal encouragement created that impression for many royal watchers. Over time, the mystery surrounding their relationship became larger than the original wedding conversation itself. The Queen seemed to view Catherine not simply as William's future wife, but as someone capable of helping stabilize the monarchy during uncertain years ahead. That possibility transformed their private interactions into something far more important than personal affection alone. Behind palace walls, trust was forming between two women who understood the weight of the crown in very different generations. Why would a monarch known for emotional distance single out Catherine in a way she had never done before? What did she see in Catherine that others failed to notice? And how did this quiet approval begin reshaping everything behind palace doors? Stay with us. Queen intervened before royal collapse. In 2007, long before wedding bells echoed through Westminster Abbey, Prince William and Catherine Middleton faced a moment that threatened to end their relationship completely. After years together, the couple suddenly separated, sending shockwaves through both the British press and royal circles. Newspapers filled pages with speculation, photographers followed Catherine constantly, and commentators openly questioned whether the future king had decided she was not suitable for royal life after all. Publicly, the palace remained silent. Privately, however, another conversation was reportedly unfolding behind closed doors. According to details later highlighted by Russell Myers, Queen Elizabeth II did not simply watch the breakup from a distance like an uninvolved grandmother. Reports suggested she quietly spoke to William during that difficult period and made her feelings about Catherine unmistakably clear. The Queen reportedly believed Catherine possessed qualities the monarchy would eventually need, qualities that extended far beyond charm or popularity. To the monarch, Catherine represented steadiness, patience, discipline, and emotional control, traits that could not easily be taught once someone entered royal life under global scrutiny. That private intervention changed the meaning of the breakup entirely. Until then, many people viewed the separation as a normal relationship crisis between two young adults struggling under extraordinary pressure. William was navigating military duties, public expectation, and the reality of preparing for future kingship, while Catherine faced relentless media attention without official protection from the institution itself. Yet the Queen's reported involvement suggested something much larger was at stake. This was no longer simply about romance. The shocking discovery. Not long ago, a deeply unsettling development unfolded at Windsor, once serious enough that William and Catherine were reportedly forced to leave the residence under circumstances never meant to become public. This was not a planned departure. It was not a private family decision. It was a response to something discovered behind closed doors, something that immediately changed the atmosphere inside one of the monarchy's most secure spaces. According to sources familiar with the situation, the discovery was unexpected and troubling enough to trigger internal protocols. Normal routines were interrupted, staff movement was restricted, and within a short span of time, William and Catherine were advised to remove themselves from Windsor altogether, with no explanation offered publicly. What makes this moment particularly disturbing is the speed with which events unfolded. One moment, everything appeared normal. The next minute, departure became necessary. That contrast has raised urgent questions about what was found, who knew about it, and why immediate action was required. A 34-year-old man named Marcin Jacek from Brent, northwest London, had broken into Windsor. He traveled by train from Camden to Windsor, where security cameras spotted him at the perimeter of the grounds. He then disappeared from view and was picked up again by cameras on the grounds at around 12 p.m., where he was seen talking to a female resident before briefly entering a property through an open door. Jacek, who works in construction, managed to walk around the grounds for 40 minutes before officers apprehended him. The officers found a small white bag in his possession, and Jacek admitted to having taken cocaine, which he says he only very occasionally uses. The incident turned out to be grim enough for William and Kate to leave Windsor at least for the time. However, the real reason for going had not been disclosed. For senior royals to leave under pressure suggests that whatever was uncovered challenged assumptions of safety, privacy, or trust. And when those assumptions are shaken, consequences ripple far beyond a single location. As the palace remains silent, attention turns to the implications. Why was departure the chosen response? Who was informed and who was not? And how serious must a discovery be to override every instinct for discretion? Because if William and Catherine were truly forced to leave Windsor, then what was uncovered? There is something the palace is not yet ready to explain. The departure from Windsor did not follow any familiar pattern. There was no scheduled movement, no advance notice to staff beyond a tightly held circle, and no visible preparation that would suggest a routine change of residence. Instead, the decision unfolded abruptly, driven by information that altered priorities in real time. Those close to palace operations described the atmosphere as measured but urgent, not chaotic, yet unmistakably serious. Windsor Castle operates under layered security and long-established protocol. Any discovery capable of prompting immediate relocation of senior royals must therefore meet a high threshold. This was not a matter of comfort or convenience. It was a response to risk, whether physical, procedural, or reputational, that required distance before assessment could continue. Familiar sources with internal processes, the discovery emerged during routine internal checks that expanded unexpectedly. What began as a standard review reportedly escalated when something inconsistent appeared, something that did not belong, did not align, or did not fit established records. The nature of that inconsistency has not been disclosed, but the response indicates it was serious enough to override the instinct for discretion that usually governs royal movement. Within minutes, internal communication narrowed. Only essential personnel were briefed. Staff were instructed to continue normal duties while access to specific areas was quietly restricted. This dual approach, calm exterior, controlled interior, is typical of palace crisis management. The goal is to prevent visibility while preserving flexibility. William and Catherine were reportedly informed directly without intermediaries. That choice alone says a lot about the gravity of the situation. When information bypasses layers and reaches senior royals immediately, it suggests that the decision space is limited. Time becomes a factor. Distance becomes precaution. Their departure was described not as evacuation, but as removal, a subtle but important distinction. Evacuation implies immediate danger. Removal implies prevention. It suggests that while no active threat was present, remaining in place could complicate assessment or response. In such cases, stepping away is often the safest option. The timing also matters. Windsor has long been associated with routine family life, particularly for William and Catherine. It is a place of stability away from the constant pressure of central London. So, to choose to leave that environment disrupts the known rhythm. That disruption is not undertaken lightly. But what was the palace's response? Inside the palace, attention reportedly shifted toward containment. Not concealment, but control. Control of information flow. Control of narrative exposure. Control of operational response. When discoveries intersect with security, trust, or integrity of space, investigation takes precedence over explanation. It is notable that no immediate reassurance followed. In past situations involving benign issues, brief statements have been issued quickly to calm speculation. The cost of royal companions. The British royal family is often seen as the very picture of dignity and tradition, but even they haven't been immune to the unpredictable side of animals. In fact, over the years, several incidents involving the Queen's beloved dogs didn't just lead to physical injuries. They also revealed surprising cracks in the polished public image of royalty, making the monarchy feel more human, for better and for worse. The most famous of these stories revolves around Queen Elizabeth II's Pembroke Welsh Corgis. The Queen adored these short-legged dogs, so much so that she owned more than 30 during her lifetime. But while many saw the Corgis as a charming royal quirk, their behavior sometimes contradicted that story. These dogs were bred originally for herding, and that instinctive toughness sometimes showed itself in aggressive ways. In March 1991, one of the most dramatic incidents occurred when the Queen was bitten while trying to break up a fight among about 10 of her own Corgis. In the chaos, she received 3 stitches in her left hand. A royal chauffeur who tried to help also needed a tetanus shot. For many, the image of the monarch hurt while mediating a dogfight humanized her. She was no different from any other pet owner trying to separate quarreling animals. Yet it also undercut the flawless portrait of regal composure typically presented to the public. Going further back, the Queen's first great corgi, Susan, who was gifted to her on her 18th birthday, was known for biting palace staff and even a policeman patrolling Buckingham Palace. Meanwhile, in 1968, a corgi at Balmoral bit a postman so badly that a member of Parliament jokingly suggested putting up a "Beware of Dogs" sign, turning a playful animal myth into a public safety conversation. Physical harm wasn't always the only problem. In 1989, the Corgi's behavior reportedly got so out of hand that the royal household hired an animal psychologist to help control them. And in a tragic twist, one of the Queen Mother's dogs led a pack that attacked and killed one of the Queen's beloved Corgis named Chipper. Later, in 2003, Princess Anne's English Bull Terrier mauled a Corgi called Pharos so badly that the dog had to be put down. These incidents weren't isolated quirks. They were recurring episodes that fueled a broader public conversation about what it means for the monarchy to keep a large number of animals in an official capacity, especially when those animals occasionally caused harm. The public fascination wasn't just because a queen was bitten by her own pets. It was because these episodes made royalty relatable. People who had ever been nipped, bitten, or overwhelmed by their own dog suddenly saw that even monarchs dealt with the same messy, unpredictable side of pet ownership. But the impact wasn't all positive. To some critics, these stories also raised questions about responsibility. How does a household with the best trainers, gardeners, and dog handlers still end up with dogs that bite courtiers and visitors? Why would the royal family keep breeding pets that sometimes acted out violently? Such moments gave fuel to commentators who perceived the royals as out of touch with ordinary concerns, especially when juxtaposed with broader societal issues like dog attacks or pet safety standards outside palace walls. Yet, there's another layer. These corgi stories didn't just become fodder for tabloids, they became part of the cultural fabric of how the world saw Elizabeth II. From corgis appearing alongside her in the 2012 Olympics James Bond sketch to these same dogs nipping palace staff or even a postman, the narrative was rich with contradictions. Regal yet vulnerable, disciplined yet imperfect. In the end, the royal family's dog-related injuries offered both charm and challenge to the monarchy's image. On one hand, they made the royals seem less distant, relatable beings dealing with pets just like millions of their subjects. On the other hand, they invited scrutiny about responsibility and public perception. The whales protect their children. Understanding just how protective the whales are of their children will explain why staying in a place, which for the time is unsafe, is not practicable. Prince William and the Princess of Wales are caring parents of 3 children, and although Prince George, 11, Princess Charlotte, 9, and Prince Louis, 6, have often appeared at high-profile public events, their private lives are always kept out of the spotlight. The Wales family regularly enjoys family vacations and outings such as ballet performances, trips to the UK's Lapland, and various festivals. However, photographs of the royal family in informal settings are not published. This reflects a clear privacy policy, which has always been important to the children's parents, especially Princess Catherine and Prince William. When William and his brother, Prince Harry, were children, their late mother, Princess Diana, made an effort to provide her children with simplicity and normality. Despite their royal status, she often took them to McDonald's, movie theaters, and theme parks. For example, in the early 1990s, Diana took her sons to Thorpe Park Amusement Park. Each time, they became paparazzi targets as they laughed on water slides and rode roller coasters. Such photos became iconic and are still remembered by many. George, Charlotte, and Louis are unlikely to repeat these iconic moments with their parents, as they are afforded a greater degree of privacy. In 2015, Kensington Palace released a statement on behalf of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, addressed to media leaders, requesting that unauthorized photos of their children not be published. Following the publication of images of Prince George, this move marked an important moment in protecting the royal family's private life. Prince William and Princess Catherine have taken additional steps to ensure their children grow up in an environment as close to normal life as possible. One of these steps was the start of a tradition of official photos taken by the Princess of Wales for their children's holidays. This practice was established in 2015. Rather than hiring photographers, the princess took charge of the process herself, allowing the family to remain out of the press while capturing more intimate, natural moments. Over time, George, Charlotte, and Louis are beginning to take on public duties. In recent years, they have accompanied their parents to sporting events, such as the European Football Championship and Wimbledon, marking their first steps in public life. Experts suggest that such events are a preparation for future roles. Prince George's role in royal matters may require him to master certain social skills and public behavior. According to statements from their parents and other sources, Prince William and Princess Catherine make every effort to ensure that their children's upbringing remains as close to ordinary life as possible, despite their status. In an interview with British media in Cape Town, South Africa last November, Prince William noted that his children's education comes first and that royal duties can wait. He said that their school schedules take priority over everything else, while also expressing hope that Catherine might be more involved in family trips next year. Did William and Kate make the right call? And is Windsor truly safe? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, Click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.